Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to the show we call the Inworld Review. This is a show where we look at arts, destinations, and above all, the people who inhabit the hypergrid. And the hypergrid is actually a networking system that connects all virtual worlds, 3D worlds together, on the proviso that they're actually authored using the open source Open Simulator software. So we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of different grids, or that being the word for the worlds themselves, so to speak. And so we have plenty to choose from, as a rule. The Well, let's see where to start. First of all, my name is Mal Burns. My right-hand man, who fiddles with the knobs and sits on everything, is James Atlloud. To my right, of course. Welcome, James.
Hi, Mal. Thanks. Great to be back in the studio again.
Yeah, indeed. And on my left-hand side, my wonderful co-host, Tosha Tyran. Hiya, Tosha.
Hi there, Mel. Nice to be here.
Great. And your voice is sounding wonderful today, actually. No microphone problems there. We're also joined by, he was actually on this show, I realised, about 2 years ago, because I was looking at the back chat, as it were. But it's Una de Cal. Welcome, Una. Shall I call you Una?
Yes, you can call me anything you want. Just call
Anything
me.
you want? Okay, well, yeah.
I like that.
Donald?
No.
Sorry. I'll get in an argument, won't we? Right. No, Uno is fine. What maybe you don't know is we announced last week that we're on I've got a studio. It looks pretty much the same, but we moved to another grid called CraftGrid here. And before our main studio before this was up to 2 weeks ago or something, was actually on OS Grid, which is one of the original grids on the Hypergrid. Open Sim grids that way, even before the Hypergrid. And many people refer to it as the developers grid. And basically, they will be not closing down, but they'll be going offline for a period of time while they literally reboot everything and start afresh, which means that the residents are going to be losing their inventory and things. So they'll still have their contacts, their name, and, well, I'm going to talk to Una about that as time goes by. Also, Una was behind the actual region where our other studio was, and on the ground floor there was the Little Prince exhibit and stuff like that. So working with Thursday, I guess Una was the one who brought that up. So we'll talk about that as we go along, so to speak. We'll get to Safari and stuff like that a bit later, actually, once we've covered the essentials. But just moving briefly to the picture show behind me, so to speak, I had intended for the opening yesterday, finally the opening of the Open Sim World's Fair. I clearly wasn't going to get there yesterday, but I went very early this morning, UK time. I assume the time's advertised there, California time. And it's unbelievable. It was laggy. I could barely move myself, let alone the camera. And nothing was, well, I won't say nothing was rezzing, but it was like a huge, metropolis of grey buildings with just the odd hint of colour somewhere popping up. And I reckon if I'd actually parked there in situ for about 3 or 4 hours, it would probably have all rezzed, at least within rezzing distance, so to speak. But I wasn't having any of that. I mean, the idea was to go there and film so we have something to show you. But we don't. All I can do is show you the little poster there and tell you that it did open yesterday. It did have events. I mean, mostly DJs and things, and there have been some sort of blogs on Facebook and things about it. I don't know if other people, maybe when it was busy, they took the servers down and rebooted them ahead of schedule or something. Who knows what happened yesterday. But I haven't seen any actual complaints about it. But there again, people often go to these things, and if like me, it's too slow to work, you just log out and go somewhere else. Anyway, that was happening there. And I think that's about it. Oh, yes. Well, one piece of news, actually. This is a blog called Cafenio, and it's here. It's part of the Craft Grid here. And Lorenzo Collig, Igno has been contacting me trying to do an interview with me, I guess because we suddenly landed on CraftGrid. Unfortunately, she wants me to do it in text, and anybody who knows me knows I used to write profusely when I was younger, but now I can't handle the keyboard very easily. So it will maybe happen. But anyway, this I picked up the blog that they've just relaunched, and her first post literally came up today. And it's about Una Academy, which is a school sim in Craftworld. And I suspect, Tosha, you would know a bit about this. Education sims. Is this
Yes.
the ones you were talking about previously? Yeah.
Yes, I know a little bit about it.
So on the blog here, we just got a picture there. That's obviously in the round meeting. Is this a children's school? In other words, it's parental guidance and it's not open to the public, or is this another one?
No, it belongs to the educational project, and I think it is not open for the public.
All right.
I can see it. They are young children, and they have special ways to enter, and the children can only go to the educational, to the school grids, and as adults from the whole region, only teachers and assistants can go there.
Go in there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's nice to have this little blog explaining what's going on, because it's not somewhere you can sort of just hypergrid into. So I recognize all these names here as I see them online all the while. Actually, over here.
They really are very interesting. Sims. Well, they are. The interesting part about it, of course, is the work they do with the children. I think it's really very interesting, very much so. I don't that the kids, I think, are mostly between 10 and 14 to 15 years old, and
at the bottom here we got it. I can't load them up, unfortunately, but there's a couple of photos here of the real kids.
yeah, and you can see that they're kids.
Yeah, exactly, holding up the thing.
Yeah,
so it's really good. There are lots of instances, not just on Craftworld, but all over the Hypergrid, on grids which are actually used by schools and not universities too, of course, but for one reason or another, they're not Hypergrid enabled. In other words, you can't jump into them because they have locked down for use by kids. The teachers, or whatever, usually have an adult account and can get out. They have the keys to the fence, so to speak, but the kids are there for their education. So that's that. Okay, if you want to read more about this, then it's probably worth bookmarking this blog for future reference too, since I'll be publishing more soon. I think there's some old posts here too, but this is the first of the new ones. It's called Cafenio, the blog. It's KAFENEIO.blog, and it's got www in front of it here as well. And if you go there, you'll be able to get a feed for it. This will be on the front page, basically, because it's the only thing they've published recently. So that's Cafenio, Cafeneo. Yes.
It is funny because Cafenio is Greek and means like coffee shop.
Now I wondered about that. Yes, cafe. Yes. Oh, okay. So don't know about it.
And there is a Greek village on Craft. It is called. Well, I don't know what it's called now. I could look up it for it. And that has a coffee shop, and it's called Cafenio.
So maybe that's where it's based.
Yeah, and the traditional Greek coffee shops are very much like social gathering.
Yeah. There was actually a Greek grid at one point, I seem to remember. I don't know if it's still going. I remember visiting it and actually filming all those cute sort of Greek houses that they had, But who knows? Oh, that's very good anyway. So yes, well, look that up and keep an eye on that blog too, because I will, of course. I'm sure they're going to produce a lot more too. They've got some background on craft here as well, obviously, and various. There are other blog posts, but this is kind of what you might call a revival by the look of it. Okay, so we've got that one out of the way, and right, I'll be back on these screens in a while for our review of what happened on the safari this week. But first of all, I'm going to go back to Una. So welcome again, Una. As I said in passing, sort of you, I know you're behind the Exubri region that Tosha had, where we had the Inworld review in Grid. And I've noticed you popping up in the Grid Discord and things like that, sort of. And so I thought, well, I'll see if Una can come on. Maybe in the best, as somebody more involved in any of the three of us, basically, I was wondering if you could explain, basically, to people who will be listening to this, or watching it, exactly what's going on with Grid. I mean, it comes down, I believe, to the fact they've got an astonishing inventory of assets, which has accumulated over something like 18 years. Is that right?
Yes. Well, first I need to say that I am not directly involved with the grid. I'm not in the management team. I'm just somebody who's been around for a long time and who has developed a close relationship with the people who actually run the grid.
Sure.
So I'm informed, but I'm in no way part of the decision-making team, and I have no influence in those decisions. But yes, the um, uh, the grid has been in existence for about 18 years. I think it started in 2003, 2004, shortly after Second Life started.
Yeah.
And since then, it has been accumulating an incommensurable amount of assets. I think mm, the storage right now it's in to a tune of a usable 4 terabytes or something like that of storage, which is almost completely full.
Yeah.
And it's giving a lot of problems because it has lots of assets that are broken.
Yeah.
The storage is just too large for the management systems that run it and that keep it ticking over on a day-to-day basis. Um, and there's so much use on it that it just gets corrupted every once in a while. It's a two-part system. It's the actual storage of the assets, uh, and there's also the database that holds the inventory side of things, which
Right.
basically ties up which each inventory item, which physical file on the Linux server is to the to the item in the user's inventory or uh, to the region. If it's resed, it'll be in the region database somewhere. But the table that usually gets corrupted, or the database that usually gets corrupted, is the inventory database, which is why people stop seeing all their items listed and they have to either flush their cache or do some sort of reset with Firestorm or whichever
Yeah.
viewer they're using in order to get the full list of assets. And in some cases, whole sections of the assets become unavailable within the asset server, so that
Let me
you see the items listed, but it comes up as a missing item,
Yeah.
and you get an error in Firestorm.
I've actually had that more while I've been here because I've been importing. I've been loading my Grid avatar and transferring stuff to this.
Yes,
It all seems fine until I try and res the stuff here, and then some comes and some says missing, missing, or the thing with this ID is not available. So I mean, it's obviously it's copied a tag, as it were, from OSGrid, but no
Yes.
feasible objects. But I mean,
There's more. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to explain a lot more.
yeah, sure.
Of those 18 years that Osgrid has been active, I don't know if you remember in 2014, 2015,
Yeah,
there was a big asset. Well, there was a big asset server crash
yeah,
that
Yeah. Yep.
basically hard drives physically crashed on the asset server. Dan Banner had a specialist firm look at those hard drives, and they were able to recover a great deal of the data on those drives, and they set up a new asset server from the recovered data, but that left massive holes in the assets
got you.
from that was on the zero point 0.8 version of OpenSim. When they released 0.9, an error in the code introduced a massive amount of asset errors as well, which we've been carrying on ever since then. The grid has not been cleaned since it was impossible to clean. It was a big amount of asset corruption, which has only been added to over the years. I'm talking about 2015, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And that over time has compounded in such a way that it puts us in the current terms. In fact, since 2022, the grid goes down every few months. It used to be like twice a year. Now it's every 3 months or so. The grid goes down for a few days because they have to do maintenance on the asset server or
sure.
the inventory database. Uh, because of all this corruption that comes historically, basically from 15 to 18 years ago, and it's been compounded over and over and over again over time. That is the major reason why the thinking now is to do a big wipeout, delete absolutely every single asset, start from zero. Um,
A nice fresh, fresh
yes,
machine, so to speak.
which is
Oh,
making
I
everybody
noticed.
panic, obviously.
Yeah. And presumably these sort of things happen anyway with, every so often when the OpenSim software itself is released for a new version, you're always hearing stories of sort of old things that aren't compatible with, I mean, the most famous one to me, I think, was Mesh. There was a
Mm.
kind of mesh that worked on OpenSim for a while, then an upgrade came along and your mesh was suddenly not working again. So things like that, and I think even Linden Labs had this program a long while ago. They sort of said, some of the code base was so old, nobody knew how to drill down and fix it. All they
Mm.
could do was build on top of it. It's like building London on top of Londinium, the Roman city.
Yeah, it's pretty much the
It's
same
probably
sort of
good to,
code archaeology.
yeah. So for somebody like you, I mean, you run various regions or have been running various regions on those screens. So presumably you will bring I mean, the reset will take a few weeks. And I think it'll be up again mid-April. Is that what I gather? Or
Yes, well, they are hoping it will last a week, but I don't see how it's only going to last a week, and I don't see how we're going to be back in the first week of April.
yeah, wishful
Um,
thinking.
but yes, basically everybody has been encouraged to make OR files of their regions, which me as a commercial hosting service, I am doing once a week now. It used to be every day, but in order to allow other people to do their backups,
Yeah,
I've reduced my load on the grid, so it's only happening once a week. I will have all files from the week of the 14th of February, and then once a week until the shutdown, I will have a new all file. So if people want to box up parts of the inventory and res them on their on the SIM, that they will be backed up so they can collect them afterwards.
So the backup will include an OAR file. What about the AIR? Does that are
Well,
you able to back up?
that is another whole can of worms.
It's an individual, it's an individual with one AIR for every person, isn't it? So
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That's been driving everybody crazy because there's two ways you can do an IR file. One is if you've got access to your own region simulator, you can do it in the console, type the command, and with a little bit of luck, after a few hours or even a couple of days, you will have your IIR file with all your inventory,
yeah,
hopefully. They released a new version of OpenSim that has a new uh, modifier for the save IAR command, which disposes of all the assets that may be corrupt or not found. So, in theory, you should get a clean inventory out of that. If it works, the thing is that everybody's been panicking in the past
mm,
couple of weeks, so everybody has rushed to try and do OR files, IAR files, and all sorts of other asset transfers to other grids in order to save the inventory. Because a lot of people have also left Osgrid in a panic. They've gone to other grids
yeah,
to set up the SIMs there. Um, so the grid has been so busy that every few days they've had to close to fix the servers a little bit and reopen, and
right,
it's been almost impossible to get a reliable IAR file out of the grid for weeks. And I've basically just given up.
yeah.
Uh,
It sounds like it.
Mm, mm.
Well, what you said about sort of only doing it once a week instead of once a day. I mean, basically every resident is still around, is trying to do the same thing, and just backing up the IAR files is stressing the server. I would think no end.
exactly.
Um,
The grid has set up a web page where users who do not have their own sim where they can
oh, of
actually
course,
type in the command and save the IR file, they can download an IR file over the web. The thing is, in many cases, the inventories are so large that it
yeah,
takes days and days and days to to download the inventory.
yeah,
And obviously, if you've got a session running for days and days and days, the chances of something happening to your internet connection or to the connection between your computer and the grid
yeah.
being broken at some point and the process crashing are so great that it's almost impossible to get a usable inventory backup out of that unless you've got a tiny little
That's a tiny little
inventory,
inventory.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
which in
What's
that case
tiny?
it's not worth backing up anyway. So,
And
um,
of course, one's bandwidth doesn't really help because on servers like that, and everybody using it, you can have the fastest bandwidth, but it's still going to take ages to back up something like that. Uh,
exactly.
so yeah, I've had an OS Grid account since
Mm.
well, let's say year one, but pretty much year one, I think. And I remember over the years I've had different avatars there and things, and I've still got the same account. So the inventory is absolutely massive, but I couldn't actually find stuff. I think stuff has long since gone anyway. And my main concern was that could get all my crucial toys out, and also the essential stuff from on the exemplary. I always say exuberant grid,
Exuberate.
yeah.
Right.
Sort of a lot of the other stuff is really, if I can get it through, fine, but it's a bit of a write off. You get something through, you res it and think, oh, I remember that, and then you take one look at this, oh, it's horrible. Hasn't kept up with the times. So in fact, I think it was Thursday when she announced it in her blog a couple of days after the actual announcement had come out. So she sort of obviously considered the point of this. And I got the impression, for example, that she was saying, well, I think I prefer this. It's a big hassle. It's driving us all up the wall, but it should be a good result at the end of the day, so to speak. Because it will be starting afresh.
I have a
Now,
question.
yeah,
Unucal, do you know when you transfer something from one avatar to another on a different grid, is the data for the object actually transferred to that other server, or does it still stay on the original server?
No, the asset itself is copied over, but
It
if
is.
the
Okay.
asset has errors or it's one of those missing assets, uh, it's going to create errors on the new grid.
Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
So
Okay.
basically,
So
you run the risk of just moving garbage around. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, something I've been doing, although it's a bit of a hassle here. Spending far too much time here actually fiddling around. But I'm actually when I pick stuff up, obviously OS Grid never used the suitcase, which I thought was a shame because it's a major part of the hypergrid, really. But here I've got the suitcase. So if I pick something up on another grid,
mhm.
it gets put in my suitcase here.
Right,
And I always find that I deliberately move it out of my suitcase into my main inventory for stability. But also, I tend to things that are important from suitcase onto the land. Then I
right,
take it back up into the normal inventory. That way I
right.
can check that they're coming through okay.
Yeah,
And
but Mel, frankly, do you do that with every bit of inventory that you pick up somewhere, that you res it, you look at it, you check through it, and then you pick it up in your into your regular inventory? I think that would take you quite a bit of time, and I don't think anybody does that really.
no, it has been taking me a while, but I mean, I'm only doing it for the landscaping stuff, things I really want to put down to toss up the place, and
Okay.
not everything in my inventory. Some stuff is a write off anyway. I mean, I'm loaded if I want a. Well, I can't think of something I don't want, but I mean, yeah, it's that's just what my way of doing it because it probably only takes a few seconds more to drag it onto the land and take it up again and
Yeah,
actually
but
see if it's okay.
do that with I don't know what 30,000 or
Oh, no,
40,000 or 50,000 items,
no,
then it's more than just a few seconds, you
no,
know.
no. I haven't even made any attempt to move the
Yeah.
entirety of my OS grid inventory across, nor for that matter even the Avacon. I've selected things from those inventories that I wanted here, but anything that I didn't know about or certainly didn't want, I've just left it behind. But I gather when again when the grid does come back up, which I mean I reckon will be mid-April if that,
Mhm.
because they're going down I think near the end of March, aren't they? So there'll be
Yes,
3 or 4
the
weeks.
expected date for the switch off is the 21st of March.
Right, okay, which is coincidentally a RHIE deadline too. um, I knew there was something familiar about that day. Right. Now, when it comes back up, you can correct me if I got this wrong. Although we won't have any inventory anymore, if you're hosting people's regions with their OAR file, for example, you will be able to bring up the OAR file for them.
Yes,
Of that,
all of the reputable hosting services that I know of.
yeah.
It's not just me. There's a couple of people
Oh, yeah.
who run hosting services in Osgrid. Um, we are all making all backups of all the regions, and we will all apply those all files um, as the grid comes back. In my own personal case, I will not do it straight away. I will wait a couple of days to make sure that the grid is stable.
Oh,
Although
of course.
everybody is
Yeah.
going to start trying to load their IR files, um, if they manage to make IR files, and they will start trying to load the O files. Uh, and the grid may not be stable at that point because everybody will be rushing to reload and
Do it at
rebuild.
the same time. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
will
But
give it a
even
few days. So it will be a few days of my regions all standing basically empty, except for maybe my office and a couple of others that I will load as a test. But yes, we will try to rebuild from scratch from all files as the grid comes back. That's why I've been encouraging my users to if they can't uh, make IR files to res whatever is important to them on
yeah.
the sim itself. I will include them in the OR files, and then when the grid comes back, I will apply those, and
Oh, wow.
they can
Wow.
pick up whatever they need
Yeah.
to
Mm.
from there. Um, but
So
yes,
basically, that's your customers, isn't it? So
yeah,
presumably the other providers are going to be doing similar things, but it's just a matter of doing the best you can for the
exactly,
customers, I
yes.
guess, isn't it? Yeah. Now,
Yeah,
well, I
I know that Fernando Oliveira and Paella Agos are going to do the same, similar sorts of things, and we are
yeah,
basically the biggest hosting services in Ostrid. So
right,
um,
wonderful. Now, when it does come back up, I mean, um, I probably well, I don't have any land of my own, so I mean, but my avatar will
would you
still
like
be
some? Would
registered.
you like some land?
Um, I've got to fill that. I've got to fill this place up first. Yeah, I don't know whether you better, well, Thursday wants to bring the Exupery up again, or that's up to her. We just had the studio in there.
Right.
But the thing that is crucial, and I gather will be okay, is contacts and messaging. Right, my OS Grid avatar, when he logs into the new improved grid,
Uh-huh.
I will still have my existing contacts from that grid and my existing, well, I'll be able to message friends and stuff like that. So
Yes.
that side of it is unaffected. I'll still be able to contact people who I've made friends with on that grid.
Yes, I wanted to address this as well because there's been lots of rumors going around like Osgiri was going to close, we were being attacked in some
Yeah,
way. Uh, Also, we're going to lose everything, including our contacts. No, it's just the inventories, just the items in your inventory,
right,
things like contacts, profile information. Um, Obviously, you're going to use your profile pictures unless you save them, but the profiles themselves are going to remain because they're stored in different tables on the
database,
robust database.
right,
So the only part of that that's going to be affected is the inventory database.
right.
So that's the only part that we're going to lose. Uh,
That's a major relief because the last 2 weeks, for example, I go on Safari and then I've been refriending everybody there using this craft grid avatar, which is even called Crossed, believe it or not. And I keep thinking, oh, sort of, I'm going to have to find everybody who I friended using my OS Grid avatar again. But in reality, of course, it would just be a few weeks, and then I can always log in and find them if I don't know where they are with this avatar. So that's a major relief. I mean, um, yeah, it's like your house burns down. You have to put up with it. But the worst thing is losing your friend, the member of all your friends. Your network, so to speak. I mean, that is something that I can imagine people are very concerned about. Because it's 18 years of investment in other people in a way. Although I'm sure with Discord and everything, people have back channels to everybody important anyway.
Well,
So
but on the other hand, let me mm,
yeah,
let me explain my thoughts on the real life action. When I came from Germany, I moved to Spain. I moved all my possessions, and I've been living 30 years since in Germany before. So that means a whole lot of stuff that I had there. And I packed all the things that I could into a small little Suzuki Swift. I don't know if you know that. It's one of those very small cars. And my dog, that was at that time pretty big, had also to go. And with those things I could put in there, I came to Spain. And I had nothing else. And I started, so to speak, with zero again. And that also is an adventure. It's also good. You can start really new again, and you
Yeah,
reorganize all your things. And
That's
I
true.
think that is not so different when you do that in virtual world. Just
yeah,
start all new. If you lose all your friends and all your contacts, that would be bitter. But Yuna said that would not happen, and I do trust him on that.
yeah.
and but the rest, well, why the hell not start once in a while all over again? You know.
It's refreshing. I mean, I know that in the real world, I've got hanging on to the huge libraries of things because they're an extension of me. But I know from past experience when you move and you start anew, it's sort of a refreshing thing. And I had avatars on the Great Canadian Grid and a couple of other grids that have gone the way of ways. And there's one thing great about OpenSim, and that is there's always going to be somewhere else. Even if you end up putting a instance on an old computer in your own home, I mean, it can't go somewhere like Second Life, which is a walled garden and everything is centralized. I mean, if they go out of business, everything goes,
Yeah.
including the friends database and everything else like that. So they're not saying it will ever happen, but there's always that possibility. Whereas the OpenSim is resilient in the sense that the code is open source. There's different variants, people working with it. There's grids all over the place. They can all connect. It's not subject to the fragility of a closed network. It is open, and so something like OS Grid can just vanish for 4 weeks, and people will notice, but it's not the end of the world. And of course, it's coming back. So you know, um, that's the key message
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask Yuna is, it really does sound like a lot of work, for the ones that running the grid and a lot of other people too, and the users also a lot of work, a lot of preoccupation. And the thing is that it probably all the other grid owners will sooner or later face the same problem. So my question is there anything they can learn from this, what's happening right now in OS Grid, that they can make it better, have some tricks that they can use, I don't know, and make it easier for the users and the grid owners or administrators? Is there anything they can learn, in short?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Pardon me?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, is there anything other grid owners who will face the same problem sooner or later? Is there anything they can learn about this? Is there anything they can, yeah, well, they can learn about it? That's the question.
Um,
For example,
yes,
if Pocket had the same problem, there's a lesson to be learned. So that's the idea.
yeah. There are lessons to be learned now. Mm, the question is, what are we going to do with those lessons? The problem is that asset rot is a big problem in OpenSim because these rotten assets, these broken assets, have a tendency to uh, go everywhere. Every single grid will have them because
Yes.
all these assets are taken to other grids via shopping, by means
Yeah,
of avatars moving around with them and taking them with them. Um, and yes, the thing is, while you're still a very small grid, say an asset storage under 1 terabyte, you will be okay. The thing to have to keep in mind is that one should make as many backups as possible to implement backup procedures, back up the data, keep it out of the normal servers. But of course, that increases the cost. And one thing that OpenSIM grids are is cash poor, always. It's
Mm.
always a vanity project on the part of one or two people that own and run the grid that sink their own money and get nothing in return apart from the enjoyment of running their own grid.
Yeah.
It cannot possibly OpenSIM cannot possibly be run as a commercial enterprise. Even if some grids rent land, that just helps defray costs. It's never a profit-making enterprise,
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard that. That is true.
Yeah. I
which
mean, there are
reduces
people like
the available cash for things like backups, offsite storage, cloud base, all of those things that would be put in place in a fully commercial enterprise. Uh, it it's not really available for OpenSIM because it costs a lot of money.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, you just think of the difference. I mean, imagine these grids are running on solid state drives, for example, which they won't be.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't have a 4 terabyte drive for every person. Yeah, so yeah, it will. I think there are ways people devise to sort of make money. I mean, to look at Kitely's market, for example. I'm sure Elan doesn't live on it, but it would certainly make money. And then some of the grids aim to be commercial, but not in any way that would make them into you're not going to find an open sim grid admin that is sort of like Second Life, where it's sort of floating large amounts of cash around.
oh no,
Uh,
I promise you that anyone who puts time and money into running a grid in OpenSim is making less than minimum wage on any
yeah,
profit they make for the amount of
Mm.
hours they put in, for
Mm.
the amount of effort, and for the amount of aggravation that they go through.
I remember when I was doing a show many years ago here. I've been doing it for a long while, and this chap called Roddy, who was at Great Canadian Grid, sort of got in touch and said, "Do you want a region for your show?" And yeah, weird, that's great. And I ended up we ended up with one and another region, etc. And it was great. But I remember, I chatted to Roddy quite a lot, and it was very obvious that scaling is not a simple matter of steps, percentage points. It's orders of magnitude.
Yes,
You can cope with 10 customers, but by the time you get to 50, it's getting more complex. You suddenly need help, for example, and
yes,
that the cost of that help has to be distributed amongst the little bit you're getting from the regulars, and it escalates. You can't just say, "Oh, it costs me $10 a month for every customer." It doesn't work like that. By the time you're on 100 customers, they're costing you far more. I remember, he was having a hard time, coping with all that, because it never occurred to him that getting a few more people in, preferably, he wanted a friendly Canadian grid. So he didn't go into it thinking commercial, but it just happened because of the way these things scale. It just got on top of him. So, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, in a way, it's wonderful that OS Grid. Well, of course, there's a whole group of people with OS Grid, but it's wonderful it's actually survived all these 18 years, despite the the times when it's been a bit fragile, so to speak. So, yeah. Okay, have we got any James or Tosha, any more questions on this topic before we move on to the wonderful hypergrid journeys?
No, not for me. Nothing on the YouTube channel. So
Just saying that this thing that occurs now in Osgrid will happen to all the other grids too, sooner or later, and not to such extent, and we just have to live with it, and
Pretty much,
Okay.
it's a question of economies of scale. As grids grow,
Yeah,
as avatars come in and out, as they bring their items,
yeah,
uh, you know, things will happen to them. Uh, Bugs will prop up, like it happened with 0.9.0. That had a big bug that introduced a lot of data rot, a lot of
mm,
assets were corrupted, and once in a while, something like this will happen due to
yeah,
errors in the code.
yeah,
What people need to remember is that Osgrid is the testing platform for
yeah,
the core
Developers.
code of OpenSim. So if there are any errors that are not caught in the initial stages of writing the code, they will be caught in testing, and testing means when the code is implemented by the users and actually tested on their own
mm,
regions. We are the
mm,
testers for this platform. So whatever happens to the code, it will directly impact every one of us. And things will happen once in a while. Things will happen that will break our sims, or that will break the assets, or that will break some feature. Um, we can't help it. That's what we do. That's what we are here for. It's not a commercial grid that has a an obligation to be reliable, uh, and and consistent in its performance.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I suppose the message is that, sort of, if you can and you are running a grid, do the spring cleaning as often as you can, and sort of,
Yes,
you know, um, you know, um, and possibly while you haven't got too much to spring clean at the same time. So. Right, I was going to ask you just a minute. Oh yeah, while I've got you, as it were, I'm
uh,
always confused about the fact that the developer's grid, which is what OS grid is often perceived to be,
yeah.
does not employ the suitcase, which to me is one of the real innovations of the hypergrid.
Oh, let me explain that to you. When the suitcase came in, I think in 0.9,
Yeah.
there was a feature that came from a donation of code from another project. It was implemented in Osgrid. I still have a suitcase folder in my avatar account because it was employed in Osgrid at some point.
Ah,
The thing with the suitcase is that it's a question of philosophy. You need to be very punctilious about keeping your inventory tidy, organizing it in folders, in such.
yeah.
And we don't do that. We go around, we shop like it's going out of fashion. We bring all sorts of crap back into our inventories, and we never tidy anything up. Now, the
Yeah.
point of the inventory was to keep the inventory of the suitcase, sorry, was to keep the suitcase small, with only the items you need when you travel outside of the
Exactly.
grid, like your avatar items, your outfits, only the stuff that you're wearing, the shopping that you do outside of your home grid.
Yeah.
so that data transfers between your grid and the grid you're visiting are kept to a minimum, so you're not inconveniencing the host grid that you're traveling to. Um, but you need to keep everything tidy. We
Well,
don't
yeah,
do that.
the old inventory story, that isn't it?
Exactly. We go around, shop, fill up the suitcase. So basically, half of our inventory is in the normal inventory, half of our inventory is in the suitcase, and sometimes we have copies
Yeah,
repeated between the normal inventory and the suitcase because we need to make sure that our avatar is available outside and it can res.
yeah,
Uh, and it's a mess. If you're not a very well organized person, even if you have a suitcase, it's going to be a mess. So in because Osgrid is such a huge grid, so many users, so many people coming in and out, and you can't guarantee that everybody is going to be neat and tidy.
yeah.
It was decided that the suitcase, while a good idea, it was pointless in for that grid. If you're tiny
It's
little grid and you're very organized, it's an excellent idea. Go ahead,
yeah.
use it, set it up, use it. It's very easy to set up, but it wasn't convenient
It's
for
funny.
us.
My In my inventory in OS Grid, I actually made a folder called Suitcase. It didn't function like the suitcase, but I made a folder called Suitcase just so that psychologically I could dump stuff in it. But for example, earlier today, I was well all over the place actually, several different grids, and I was picking up various stuff, and it was going to my suitcase. And the very first thing I do when I get back here,
Uh-huh.
right, is copy everything out of my suitcase into my main inventory. The only thing that stays in my suitcase are certain body parts, animation override, things that are attached to my avatar all the while.
Yes.
And it's just habit. I actually did make a mess of my inventory too, but I'm actually quite good at copying everything out of the suitcase into the main inventory because I think it feels safer because I know it's then part of, in this case, sort of craft grid assets, so to speak. While it's in the suitcase, I'm never quite sure whether it's a link to the place I picked it up or whether it's actually copied through. Whereas, if I transfer, and as I say, possibly less important stuff en route, then I'm sort of fairly happy that I've got it safe in the new inventory, so to speak. But yeah, we each have our own ways around it, I think. But I always quite liked the idea of the suitcase. I used to explain it to people, to OpenSim that, it's like your baggage allowance on an airplane.
Yes.
You take what you need with you in your suitcase, and you bring back stuff you get abroad back, on the flight in your suitcase. And by the way, you don't normally carry a house in your suitcase, that comes by container load or something. So it's that parallel that is the one I use, and it just seems nice. It always felt nice to be able to say, "Well, your suitcase is a temporary thing. Take stuff in and out of it. Forget about the inventory. That's already a mess." But making special folders and everything. Okay, well, I think we've covered everything important there. What we're going to do now is just have a look back at the safaris that happened in this week. We've got Thursday's blog to talk to and some film. I mean, you're welcome to hang around and join us in admiring the views, so to speak.
Sure.
Or if we'll move to that then. Um, only two blogs this week for Thursday, and only two visits. But we went to two different places, and the first place we went to was called Dismayland. It's a great name. Um, there's a story behind this, and I forget what it is. It was Banksy created an installation somewhere once. I think it was in America called Dismayland, and the guys behind the building World like the name so much. It's not the same thing, but they adopted the name. So these are just some pictures. There's a talk on the blog here at Dismayland. Even the logo makes you think Disneyland, doesn't it? And fairly obvious. You'll see in a minute. There's quite a lot going on here. Some people did have a problem here, and I did have a problem because I went in a touring vehicle and didn't get into it. I did, as you'll see on the video in a minute, I did sort of fly around, getting to see all this stuff. Right, there she is. This doesn't include me, but this is a group of people. This is a circular sort of saucer that goes up in the air and takes you on tour. Unfortunately, people kept falling out of it, even though, and if I was sitting, they were saying in chat sort of just come up to where they are and click on an empty seat, and sit in it. But of course, the thing was moving. Actually, getting to grab an appropriate place to sit was not as easy. So I ended up doing what I normally do, and that is sort of filming everything at the beginning, and then taking part with the safari. Here we are on the flying vehicle, and I was on the flying vehicle for a while. And long shot there, very colourful, very strange in places. Yeah, then I just let my camera follow this saucer, so I could see everywhere they were going, even though I was actually I was by that time stuck on the ground. So I'm going to move into the film here now, and right, yeah, this is the first one. Let's have a go. Let's get it rolling. Yeah. Has a very circus-like quality, and as you'll see, as we come around, there's like a vast circle of lots of different booths. I never got to try out any of the booths, and I don't actually think that anybody on safari did, but I actually sort of took the camera and started circling around the build. Here we are. And you'll see when I cam in that each of this little booths has a floating Dismayland title above it. This one is called Bounce and Splat, for example. Don't even ask. I don't know what the Bounce and Splat was all about. We didn't get to try it. But Dizzy Wizzy, and yeah, an incredible load of stuff they've just built here and stuff. Now, James, you weren't on safari either, were you?
I tried. I was, trying to log in, and I just at first I thought it was mesh, and then I was told no, it's not mesh. Mesh isn't the problem.
Right.
I took off all my mesh the second time, and then I
Yeah.
tried logging in with a different grid account, and as soon as I would get there, I'd get kicked out. I don't know if it was that server or if it was my home server saying we don't want you here. I don't know who it was, but I could not
No,
get in. Yeah.
Something that did happen, which is weird. I don't know. I suppose there's some explanations, but they actually told us when we arrived we had to go through like a security thing, and I guess it was in the sky or something. It's like a role play customs, with the heavies, and then you were allowed in, and you came down, and you were actually in the thing. But apparently, the region was locked down in the sense that if you logged out, you wouldn't be able to get back in. And exactly why they did that, I don't know. I think they wanted to. I think it was their idea of keeping everybody in and keeping control of everything. But of course, I was worried about that. Fortunately, I never actually logged out of the grid this was on. When my camera started going wrong, I got the wheelie, on the screen. I just let it run to it stabilized itself again. But I certainly froze, and I just found myself on the ground, and I just thought, right, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to move into camera mode and film.
Sure. And I complained a little bit on the Safari
Yeah.
Discord, but I felt
Sorry,
bad.
yeah.
And it's something a grid administrator can certainly choose to do, and I can't fault them for doing what they think is important. But I just wasn't able to participate.
Well, if you check out, there's this blog on there, this hgsafari.blogspot.com is the address. There's a bit of, you saw the pictures already, but there's a bit of reflection and sort of a record of chat trying to explain it, and in some of the back channels too. But they are an unusual grid, to say the least. They've got their own very strict rules, including no mesh things and whatever under normal circumstances, and they relaxed the rules for safari, but most of the time, apparently they're pretty strict, including the bit where you enter through a sort of customs thing, which is it's a bit impressive actually. You know, you get down here and it's all quite colourful and nice in a weird way, but the entrance bit, you know, you really feel like you're being in a prison or something, having to go through customs. uh, did you experience that, James, at the beginning?
I got to the grid. And it said you've been logged out.
Oh,
But
right,
I
before
didn't
you
see
really,
ever see anything. Never saw a thing.
right before you even got down to the
Uh,
bit itself.
yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and of course, Tosha didn't make it at all. So,
Hmm.
well, what do you think? Yeah, that's why we got the film here. You can give your thoughts on what you can see, including Una, who's still with us. It's very well. I like to say it's a bit like a fairground, but it's got this sort of you know, strange, like the ghost train. It's a bit and Halloweeny. It's not just all the fun of the fair. It's a bit spooky and you know.
Well, I see it
So,
as a critique of the fair as well. I mean, there are a
yeah,
lot of fairground builds throughout OpenSim, even some on Second
yeah,
Life. And, you know, I think the thing they do is to be very careful to not cause any copyright violations with Disney and other big
oh
players.
yes,
But my sense is that Dismayland says this is what we're doing. We're criticizing this whole industry, and then
yeah,
also having some fun with it. About, you know, you might get hurt here, you might get squished, you might have all these terrible things happen, and that to me seems like what Banksy was actually doing as well.
yeah.
Social commentary.
Sure, as always in
Yep.
this case.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny. I wonder if one came here leisurely in one's own time and everything goes properly and everything. I mean, how long it, you know, you would stop at each of these things and try it out. So you could be here for days. I think, you know,
Mm-hmm.
these
Yeah.
tiny little brews and things, you know, all over the place. So yeah, it's a shame they've got some of these kind of rules in place because I imagine it's the sort of thing that would get quite a lot of visitors, more so than you know, if you had
But
to, oh, I've
maybe
got a swap mesh avatar for a regular avatar and do all
right,
that
right.
stuff. You
But maybe that includes Disney lawyers.
Yes, make it infernally hard for Disney
Right.
employees to get
Right.
in.
Right.
Yes. Oh, there's nothing here.
Nothing here. Nothing to see
Nothing
here. Move
nothing
along.
here to see. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, so but it's true. They do. They do. I remember with Star Wars, particularly, is to, yeah, I think it's Star Wars more than Trek, but the
Oh,
lawyers do.
Trek has had its moments too.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of Trek builders can tell you about that.
yeah. No, it's out there. It's sort of. Now this. I did all that filming while people were trying to get onto this floating thing. And as you can see, I haven't done the circuit there. I moved my camera back to the starting point, and everybody was still there. Are we doing this right? Are we doing this right? Is it going to take off? Is it going to take off? And of course, eventually it did. And yeah, in a couple of seconds, it switches. I switch film to following the. There we are. Look, I managed to sit there, but I didn't last there for long. I got kicked out, so I had to move to um, filming. Well, I'm trying to remember if I'm still filming when I got kicked off, but you can sort of see what's happening there. Right, okay, it's about 6 seconds of this to go, so it's the next section is obviously the one with the. Yeah, there we are. So the next section, by this time I've given up. I've been kicked out of the contraption, and basically I just option clicked on the contraption itself, and I've actually got 23 minutes of just following it. There, basically, it took a guided tour around the whole region. I'm going to skip forward a little bit on this because I'm sure we don't want to spend 23 minutes. It's quite good, but it does go. At, oh, where's my thingy?
Well, I have a question about that. Um, did they give a reason or reasonable reason, let's say, for not allowing mesh attachments?
There was one. I think it's vanity on their part, though, and again they lifted that restriction for Safari. So I was in my
Yeah,
mesh app.
okay, but
Yeah,
that is a one-time, you know, thing. But actually, why is that? Is that because mesh actually are so heavy on grids, or why might that be? Did they? That's my question. Did they give any?
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't. It seems the opposite. Mesh seems much more lightweight than Prims or
Yeah,
legacy system avatars, but I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not an expert.
yeah. I heard no reason. I do remember Thursday saying that normally they've got this thing in place and it's their grid; they can do what they want. But I can't recall hearing an intelligible reason. I think
Mm, mm,
there probably is one, but whether it's relevant, I don't know.
okay.
If I can get hold of my timeline here, movers.
The reason they usually give is because of performance. Because system avatars are so much lighter on server resources. So when you've got a lot of avatars on one server, they prefer system avatars. But not many grids have that rule anymore. I mean, what I would say is that if you have performance issues running a grid with mesh avatars, maybe you need a bigger server.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
quite likely, and it's also. I mean, Uh, I don't know. I forget what the weight of my main avatar here is. It's not ultra heavy, but it's quite light. But I know, for example, in Second Life, I've got a little animated pussycat. Everybody loves as an avatar when I go in there, and I get lost under people's feet and stuff. But it's so lightweight, I can move around incredibly fast, even though Second Life is normally lag hell. Um, but just a few pieces of mesh and an AO that makes cat noises. And I've always considered that to be far lighter weight than the system avatars, where especially in the old Second Life, people used to arrive with you see these signs saying no bling, or check
Right.
your your prim count or something. And I've always considered and found that the mesh ones don't have you're not carrying around that weight, but I guess
They can be smaller. They can be larger too. I suspect.
yeah.
My complexity now is 10,000, which is not too bad.
But to be honest, I never really check. I mean,
No.
I would if I got any considerable problems. I mean, compared with OS Grid, by the way, the my when I log in here, everything races a little bit slower, including my mesh avatar and the bits and pieces that come in with it. It's not enough to bother me. But if it did bother me, the first thing I'd be doing is trying to find now what can I not wear.
Yep. Right.
It's yeah, just different degree, different way of working, really. So at least when it got down to the ground level, people suddenly stopped falling out. I guess speed up in a little bit here.
Did
So that
anybody
we,
get dizzy?
yeah,
That thing's going round and round. Yeah.
my camera got dizzy. Actually, it wasn't so bad because I didn't have anything to do. I'd actually locked the camera onto the thing itself, and I just watched it. But my viewpoint was exactly what you're seeing here now. But it did. It also it did. You notice it just goes clockwise for a minute, then it turns anti-clockwise, and it does. It Yeah, actually, now you mentioned it, if I hadn't got thrown off the thing, I probably would have got dizzy
Mhm.
trying to look, let alone film on the vehicle itself. It's a nice idea, though, and it does. As I say, this doesn't include the full tour, but I've got 25 minutes of film here. So they did do a good job, assuming, for those
Yeah.
who actually made it onto the saucer or whatever you call it,
I
they
do
got a
love it
good
when
tour.
hosts provide some kind of a tour on a safari visit.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
In fact, I think this was much more successful than imagine giving people a tour around all the little they're not booths. What are they? I can't think of the word for
Exhibits,
them. The
exhibits, maybe
attraction, yeah, each of
attractions.
these individual attractions on, so you can imagine what a safari would be like. Somebody would, stop at one, and somebody would wander in, try and do it, and it'd be 2 hours later before we got to the next attraction. But it's a wonderful build. This it's very, it's
Mm-hmm.
complex enough, very colourful
It
though.
looks like.
It's sort of
Yep.
and as I say, I did not experience a lag, which is more than could be said for the next visit coming up, which the cornflakes event was
Oh.
should have been a dream. I remember we've been there before, and I managed to film a little bit from the air, but it was very. I found it very laggy.
Oh.
But sometimes it works out that way. I mean, I've known safaris where the first have said, "Oh, it's really laggy," the first one, and then the second one was, "Oh, that was great." And then my experience is the other way around. The first one would have been a dream, and the second one would have been the laggy one. So I think there's a lot of elements that come into this, like your home grid avatar, the performance of a server, how it reacts to various
All
things.
the hops across the internet.
Yeah, yeah, and the more hops I do, checking out the regions, the slower and laggier I do often get. Whereas
Mm. Mm-hmm.
if I teleport home and then start again, it tends to be much faster. As I think it obviously flushes out of cache some of the stuff that is getting cached as I'm traveling around the hypergrid. And of course, when I log out, I think it automatically clears a lot of the cache. I'm not quite sure, but all I know is it's going to be a good many years if I'm still around before these things happen like lightning. Yeah. Whoosh. If only that progress bar we put up with was real, You've got Una, you've been on safari with us a few times, haven't you? I believe. Not,
Yeah, I like to go on safari. The thing is, sometimes I'm just too busy to give it the
of course.
attention it deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice day. There's a nice club feeling there. I mean, I don't know how many it is now. It's actually quite a lot of people, but obviously not everybody comes every week. So, but there's a few regulars who are there every week. Me, James, and Tosha. Oh, no, but no, it's got that. It's a nice thing to happen, actually. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I think so too. I think it's great because you get to see so many places that you wouldn't probably not, you wouldn't find them if you go by yourself. And Thursa is a great organizer on that,
Yes.
But also this social feeling about it is very nice. That you go with so many people, you can comment, you can joke, you can, you
yeah,
know, jest and laugh and stuff like that. That I think is really great, and
Yes.
then they are come like new friendships about that too, and I think that's really, really quite wonderful too.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing I think that it gives you an impulse to go afterwards to look at the regions by yourself to
Yeah.
yeah,
explore them more, more seriously, let's say, because safari gives you the possibility to take a glimpse
yeah.
because you're in the group, you're looking around, whatever the sim owner wants to show you, and a little more maybe or a little less. It depends on everyone and on the performance altogether. But you always get only a glimpse, and when you go afterwards, you can see a lot more.
And
And I
linger.
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
that gives you a nice push into that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to
I agree.
just visiting sites. I personally have made it a custom of mine to normally. I don't always. I would lie, but normally I do go afterwards to the region again to look at it further, and it's always very interesting.
Somewhere like this, particularly, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the size of the region and whether how
Mm,
interesting it
mm.
is, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, something like this is a taster, you know,
Yeah.
an hour's taster, and you just want to, probably all these people who are on this ship or whatever you call it,
Yeah, and
um,
lately that I'm getting kicked out of a reason quite regularly also, um, which I haven't found the reason for it. I suppose it's a problem of my own system. Um, I have made it like a habit to go before the safari actually starts
yeah,
and start looking at the things. That makes it
That's a good
because I
idea.
have then some things in, yeah, I have already some things
cached.
in my cache. It makes it easier for my system to adapt to the region, and also when I get kicked off, well, I know more or less where I was.
What you're
You
missing.
know?
I in a way I
That's
do the
brilliant.
same. I mean,
Yeah.
if I can teleport ahead by 10 minutes or something, the first
Yeah.
thing I do is I let things res, which sometimes can take time. But then I do the filming. So
Oh
in
yeah.
fact,
Okay.
while I'm filming up here, for example, the safari people are, arriving at wherever the meeting place is, and usually people haven't moved after 15 minutes. But, they're too busy saying, "Is everybody here?" and "Hello," and I'm this, that, and the other. So I can actually film quite freely, before people start moving around and or the activity starts. Not in this case, but I think that's rather wise, and you know, um, especially as most safaris start, rounding up, maybe 15 minutes before the next hop.
Oh
Are any of you familiar
well,
with the
and
term? Oh, go ahead, Tosha.
uh, oh no. Well,
Oh,
anyways, the Thursa normally announces the places where she wants to go with us about some days before. So I normally go a day or two before already, to
Ah,
look around.
that's quite new, because when she was, used to do your job as well on the show here, she was very reluctant to let anybody know where you're going. In
Okay.
the coming week, it was like a surprise thing. But now you're right. Usually on Facebook or somewhere, she posts the places that we're going to be going to, and maybe it's if
Yeah,
people
or you
know,
can just
if
go
people
to the
know,
you can just go to the Safari Clubhouse and you find the note cards there where she wants us to go, and then you just take a note card and you go.
yeah.
That's my experience, anyways, and I've been doing that for maybe the last half year to year. I've been doing that.
nice. You know,
Okay,
we have small breweries where I live, and you can go to a brewery and get what they call a flight, FLIGHT, a flight of drinks to taste test them. And I think
Uh-huh.
Safari is kind of a flight of OpenSim.
Yes, yes, yeah,
oh, well, an interesting
absolutely. I
comparison.
agree wholly.
Yeah,
Tasting session.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but well, I think that's what it's all about, because Safari is not that really very thoroughly at a region.
Mm-hmm.
It is to have you know a light taste.
Yep.
A
I
region
like
light,
it.
so to speak, and
I
then
like it.
afterwards, if you're interested, you go back and you get to know the region more thoroughly, and that's the reason for Safari, and I think that's the thing that Thirsa has in mind too. Well, anyways, it comes across to me like that, and I use it like that.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Oh, teeth. scary things there. Let's see. Oh, right, we're almost at the end of this, and I've been, as you can probably tell, I've been skipping forward. It's to catch a bit of everything, but not. Like you say, if you watch this for long enough, you just sort of get dizzy, I guess. But the background and everything constantly changing makes quite a good piece of film there. So the next stop we went to after this, about 10 seconds more, was Cornflakes Week, and oh yes, that's where I was on the ground. You see, a lot of this wasn't racing at all. In camera mode, it raced, but I was just stuck down here waiting. Okay, moving on to the no, sorry, we'll go to the blog first. This was the second trip. Cornflakes Week it's every year, I guess. It's celebrated all over the place, but this was a celebration being held on the Neverworld grid. And I do remember here, we came here last year as well.
Yep.
I seem to remember going to quite a few Cornflakes venues, especially the original one, which was that weird sculpted floor or ground, I should say. Yeah, but these are the clips. Those are produced. And while I was filming, I suddenly thought, oh, I've been here before. Oh, look who's there. And there's Snowy. I think it's always somebody else. I don't know. I can't see. Oh, of course, I can't see Tosha. Tosha's not. I can't see James either. Oh.
I'm there.
Yeah. Very bizarre stuff going on here.
I didn't sit on anything, though,
I can't say the aesthetic thing of the Cornflakes events appeals to me that much, but it's really nice to have these celebrations of the guy. Long shot there. You certainly get a lot of peculiar avatars dressing up. There's something very fairgroundish about both, the first stop and this. They're totally different things, of course. This was just a dance. There wasn't much to be learned here. It was just like a social strap the animation on and dance kind of thing. That's a nice avatar, isn't it? I'm not sure who that is. I'm sure I should know. Again, lively and colourful. Dear, oh dear. Can't help but laugh, I'm sorry. There we are. So moving back down here, we've got the final lot of film for this week is... Get to the darn thing. What's going on? Oh. Okay, it's this one. Here we are. So I only got 2.5 minutes of film of this. It was just so familiar. I find actually rooted around here. I've probably got some film from last year that is almost identical. But it's a nice sort of build, all the colours, lots of primary colour and mixed in with a sort of greenery background. I actually moved, I think, this is just a very short bit of film. I actually moved across the water onto the normal land a bit. Whether I was still filming it, I don't know. But, yeah, pleasant enough place to be. But as I said, it was really just a dance. And the thing about those kind of events is you can follow chat, in text if you're up to it. And you can get your avatar, driving, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's down to the music. And, if the music doesn't gel with me, I'll just turn it off. And, I'd rather be dancing to some of my own music than, it's, it's...
if I recall, the music was mostly country western. And that doesn't usually work for me either.
It depends on new country, old country, whatever. Really, I don't know. I don't think I listened because I probably didn't even put it on.
Oh, that was me, and I don't have any texture. Wow.
Somehow, the idea of country and western music playing at a venue like that doesn't gel.
But maybe that was Cornflake's favorite genre. I don't know.
Maybe, or maybe just somebody that never will thought like it. Yeah. No, I got fairly eclectic taste. It's just that, when the people, DJs especially, oh, we're going to have an 80s night. I think, oh, God, no. It's not the genre, it's just the decade. It's, they're going to play the pop of that era and stuff. Oh, it looks like, yeah. At this point, everything went wrong, I think, because, 15 seconds more film. But anyway, that's where we ended up. And unusually, despite what we were saying a minute ago about those are giving us advance notice, I haven't got a clue where we actually will be going this week. But the reminder is there. I should really put the meeting times on this thing on the slide or on the lower third, kind of think of it. But Safari meets every Wednesday. At noon Pacific time, which is 8 p.m. in the UK and 9 p.m. Central European time. And we meet at the clubhouse, which is it's on its own grid now.
I can put that on the lower third, Mel, if you like.
You have got that on the lower third. That's good. Yeah. So we go to the clubhouse on the Safari grid. And as Tosha mentioned, there's a big sign there that you click on, and you can do it if you arrive late and everybody's already left. You can click on the landmark sign and get the 2 landmarks for that day and follow on, even if you're a bit late.
You can also put up the URL for the Safari blog, and that can have more of the detailed information of how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
That'll be great, yeah.
God, I've started croaking now. Get some liquid in me. Probably the ginger that's making me croak, but never mind. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Nothing to announce for next week, actually. Okay. So, yes, we'll just leave it on that, I guess.
HIE, Mel, do you want to say anything?
Oh, yes, I had that up at the beginning, and of course, where did I do it? There we are. Yep. So, April 4th to the 6th, 2025 will be the Hypergrid International Expo, which I can assure you will not be the Lag Fest or even anything like the city size of the World's Fair. Cough, cough, splutter. This will be we know from past experience this works very smoothly, and we're very pleased with it. And this year it's on its own grid, so it can't help but be even smoother, so to speak. Not much to say, but the agenda is pretty much full now. We know who the performers are and the speakers, and rehearsals will be underway. What I can say is the 21st, ironically, the same day it opens, OS Grid disappears. The 21st is also our deadline, behind the scenes deadline, to have everything in and ready, meaning all the, all the performances tried and tested, all the music and stuff that plays with it delivered, the whole system basically, sort of all wrapped up, as it were, which basically, gives probably near on a fortnight for last minute rehearsals and stuff. But experience tells us that the 21st will probably become the 31st for most people who need it. So you know what people are like. But anyway, book that in for April. Anyway, beginning of.
I have to ask like a dummy now. There will be a big fair somewhere in Open Sim. I don't know where. All of March. I'm sure you guys know.
Oh, the Open Sim World's Fair.
Open Sim World's Fair. Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, the one I mentioned. Yeah, at the beginning. Yeah. Okay. It's no longer coming soon. It's where's the new picture?
It is already there.
Yeah, it opened yesterday.
Yes.
There have been a few previews before, but as I said, I went there this morning, European time. And so lucky. Yeah.
And I wanted to mention that, that I'm working with this friendly English chat for people that know written English, but they are not very good in speaking it or insecure. They can join in there, and we normally meet in Craft World on the region of Dallas. But now we're all through the World Fair. We will be meeting there. And
On the
an
open.
Open Sim World Fair, there will be an English chat on every Monday. Yeah, from
Okay.
10 p.m. What
European.
is it called? European Central Time. I think it is 1 o'clock SLT. Is that right?
2 p.m. Pacific. Oh, hang on.
Yeah,
European time. No, 10 o'clock. So that's 9 o'clock for me. That's right. 1 o'clock.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if anybody is
I hope you,
interested, can go in there. You'll find us there.
okay, that's wonderful.
And that is
Is there a particular address to go to?
on the region 30.
30.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Remember that's English number 30.
Rio.
Everythingworldfair.com, 8002, I guess, followed by 30. Yeah. Okay, I hope it's as lag free. So I noticed on the Craft Grid login page, which of course I'm seeing every day now, that English talk is listed there under events too, in this little box up at the top left. So that's good. But yeah, I hope it's as lag free as it needs to be for that. Okay, so while we've got you here, Una, any thoughts or anything else in general you want to say while you've got the mic, so to speak?
Um, no, I think if any of you have any further questions about the situation in Osgrid, I will be happy to answer. But I don't think I've got any further remarks.
Yeah. No, I just I thought you have proved to be the right person because as a provider there too, you're able to share the experience from a user point of view, and sort of which is probably better than admin of OS Grid itself, who probably just have this general overview. So you can be
Well, I think you should make an effort to bring Dan Banner to have him
Dan,
explain exactly from a technical point of view what's going on and why he feels the need for a full asset reset.
yeah,
I think I have managed to explain the gist of it, but we need his voice against this. I can't really speak for the grid itself. I can
sure.
just give my own experience of it and my own understanding of it, but I can't really speak for the grid itself.
Okay, well, I'll try and get a hold of him. I mean, Dan Banner would be the ideal one, I think. A lot of the dev people, they always seem to be difficult to find for some reason. But I do actually have the Discord channel for OpenSim.
Great.
So I'll probably find them there. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, anything else, Tosha?
Yeah, well, no. The only thing really that remains for me is to thank Una for some really good explanations. A lot of things he could clear up for me that I was very uncertain about. And thanks a lot, Una.
It's been my pleasure. I'm glad I could help
You,
disseminate
sh-
some information.
you sure did.
Yep, the same for
At
me.
least.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good.
Okay, I was going to say anything from you, James, but you just said it. Right, okay, wonderful. Well, I'll add to the congregation there, and thank you very much, Una. You have, as I said, cleared a lot of things up, and possibly in a way that grid admin itself could not, you're sort of halfway between a consumer and a provider rather than, the good thing. So, no, really, really useful.
Yes.
Perspective you
Definitely.
managed to give us there, really. So, with that, we're going to go. I'm going to wish everybody a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, and indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And yeah, it's a wrap. We're out of here. I've even got a button for that.